All right, everybody. So now we have all our parts built. We're going to try to assemble them. And in particular, we want to keep in mind some of these parts are going to be kind of stuck together. So for example, that smokestack, the cow catcher, these hitch parts on the back are all going to be stuck to the train body, while we want the wheels. And technically, we also want these guys to move in relation. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a couple tricks for assembly-wise and how to get these wheels turning the way we want to. All right, so here we are, last left off. If you also want, if you're following on in Schoology, you can see where all those parts are going to go with each other. But again, because of how we modeled this, a lot of this is modeled in place. I'll show you guys kind of a trick of why we modeled in place, what's going to make our life a little bit easier in regards to putting this all together. Okay, so in our assembly, the way we start, so again, notice I'm in the assembly tab. If this doesn't show up, hit the plus sign, go to create assembly, and it should create a new one. First thing we're going to do is insert all of our parts. Okay, so when I go to insert, if I just click on this train parts, it'll bring everything in here, which is not a bad move. I think I might actually go ahead and do that. Let's go and hit the check mark, and it should place everything here. All right. And again, because of how I modeled it, I'm kind of have everything already centered. Things are looking good. So the first thing I'm going to do is that first part that I brought in, I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to fix this train body. Okay, so now in relation, everything else can move, right? So you notice I can drag all these things apart. I'm going to undo that, Control Z. Okay, but I'm just showing you that they're all still not really stuck together. I just have all my parts there. Only the train body is locked in place. Okay, so now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to select all the parts that I know I'm going to have stuck together. So I'm going to open this up so I can keep track of it. So for example, I know the train body, the smokestack, the cow catcher, the hitch peg in the back. I'll just show you here. Hitch peg and the hitch magnet right there. These are all going to be stuck in place. And actually, technically speaking, the axle pegs are also going to be stuck there. So I'm going to go and do that as well. So axle peg, 2, 3, 4. All right, so typically we would have to fasten these, make sure we click the right mates. But one of the little tricks of the trade is since we model these in place, they're already where we want them to go. I can hit this group. Okay, notice it says lock the position of selected entities relative to one another. I select group and shows all those ones. Hit the check mark, and now all those are stuck in place with it. Okay, so it's kind of a really quick way to assemble, assuming you modeled in place and you have everything where you want it to go. Okay, the part that gets a little tricky though is we want our wheels to be rotating in comparison to the train. Okay, so I'm going to start doing that. And the way I like to do this is I take one of the wheels. This is what I want to rotate. I'm going to move it to the side so I can clearly see the mates I want to connect to. And if there's some things in the way, for example, this linkage peg, I might click on, or axle peg, click on it, shows me where it is in the list over here. I'm going to hide that for a second. Okay, so now these ones I do want to rotate, so I'm going to use the revolute mate. There's that one. The mate connectors, I'm going to find the center of this circle. Right, so again, I hover over it. And then once I see it selected, if you want to, you can hold down Shift when you selected that face, and you can click more precisely. Right, so I want that one. I'm going to find the back side of my wheel. Again, same thing. I'll hold down Shift, make sure I hit the center of that wheel. And those two things are locked together, and it should be a revolute mate. If I hit the play button here, it'll show how it'll rotate. Okay, so that's looking good. Hit the check. All right, I'm going to go ahead and unhide the that axle peg again, so show you. Oh, there it is. All right. From there, I'm going to add revolute mates to all the wheels, and then also revolute mates between the linkage arm and the wheel. Okay, so if I do that, let's go ahead and do that one more time. Pull this one aside. Again, revolute mate. I'm going to try to find an angle where I can see it clearly. Again, find the face, shift, click on that face. I'm going to hide this other peg for a second. Axle peg, back left, there it goes. And I want to make sure it lines up to this. Shift, make sure I find the center. And I can play, double check. Looks good. Hit the check. Okay, so right now, those should be able to freely rotate. And what I haven't linked yet is this linkage arm. Right, so I want to do the same thing as what we did before, is revolute mate between, in this case, this face. Rotate it around. I'm going to zoom in, make sure I get the right mate. Shift to keep it in place. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then the other one, so right now, if I see here, this is going to move. However, I need it to lock to this other backside too. So I'm going to do another revolute mate. In this case, rotate it around, find the face, click on that. I might temporarily hide this back wheel as well. Right back wheel. Oh, left back wheel, I guess it is. That way I make sure I'm getting the right mate. Okay, so again, if I hover over it, I want to make sure I click on that. Oh, wait, just kidding. Hold on, that's not what I wanted. I wanted on the wheel. What am I doing? Let's unhide that wheel again. Then I actually want it to go to this face right here. All right. And then let's hit the check. Okay, at this point, theoretically, if I move this, I should see. Okay, like if I move one of the wheels, I notice that. I'm going to try to get it from here. Oh, I never locked the linkage pegs either. So that's kind of what's happening with that. Okay, so right now, still getting kind of like a weird motion. You see, it's kind of doing it. Okay, another thing I might want to add then is a parallel mate. And I'm also noticing these linkage pegs. I missed connecting those. So I'm going to go ahead and fasten those as well. So I'm going to do a fasten mate. Pull this aside. I want to do a fasten mate from this face. It's going to line up to this part of the wheel. Hit the check. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this guy. I want to make sure it's the back side of that peg, like that, to the front side of this. Hit the check. All right, and like I said earlier, I'm going to unhide this linkage, or sorry, axle peg. So I got all my parts again. Okay, and like I saw earlier, I want these to move together, right? So right now, it's kind of doing it, but I want to make sure. So the other one you could use is a parallel mate, which is this guy. And I think I'm going to do mine between this. I want to make sure it stays parallel, let's say, to the bottom. Okay, and by doing that, I should see that this all rotates together now, nice and clean. All right, yep, and I never unhid this axle peg left. There we go. All right, so now I really just need to repeat this to the other side. So I'm going to do this a little bit faster without all the explanation. So hopefully, based on what we just saw, you can do this pretty quickly. But at revolute mate, this face. Let's hide these axles. Both of them. Make sure it's that face. Check. And then same thing for this wheel. Make sure that's the one. Come over here. Click again. Those should be good. And then now I just need to fasten these pegs. I'm gonna pull this and this up Still need to do a revolute on the linkage arm too. Okay, so maybe I'll do that first. Let's do a revolute. Put this guy aside for now. Click, click, check. And then right now this is still moving. I'll add one more. Find that face. And that face. Okay, and check. And then, like I said, last thing I need to make sure that these little pins are fastened. So we'll do a fasten mate here to here. Check. And from here to here. All right. Okay, so we're all fastened now, and just double check. I'll actually add that parallel mate again that we saw earlier. I'm going to do this one to the bottom. All right. So at this point, I will notice that this side of the train's moving well. This side's moving pretty well. Okay. However, I want them to move together. Okay, so the last step to link them together, I'm going to look in this corner right now. Okay, I'm first am going to actually make sure that these guys get reset. So revolute 1, I'm going to right click, go to reset, so that kind of locks it back in place. And then the other one that I just did was over on this side. So 5 is my front right wheel. I'm going to reset that one as well. Okay, so that kind of puts them in the right spot. Okay, last thing I want to do is I'm going to use a gear relation. So what a gear relation does is it locks two mates together and has them move together, right? So in this case, the two mates I want, I'm going to go over, for me, it's revolute 1. Okay, revolute 1 was the one between the wheel and the train body. And then on the other side, okay, again, if you hover over, it kind of gives you where they're rotating. And mine is revolute 5. Okay, 5 is also my right side front wheel. Okay, relation ratio just says, do you want them moving together? If you change that, then one might move faster than the other. Okay, and if they want them in opposite directions, you can choose that. In this case, I want them moving together. Hit the check mark. Now, if I kind of see what's happening, I can move them. Both sides of the wheels move together. We're looking pretty good.